this morning. I'll go through an overview of all about the ORSAA and who should be completing it, and then we'll have a live demo and complete an application from start to finish. I'll talk about support and next steps after the ORSAA is submitted, additional resources for you, and then we'll have time for your questions. We are going to cover a lot of material today. We don't expect you to remember all of it, but if you don't remember anything else, I encourage you to keep in mind these 3 key points. First of all, when you are creating an ORSAA account, use a permanent email address for the student and for the parent. Be sure to get through and complete the entire application, get to completed, and that may include a parent signature. And if at any time a student, a parent, or someone at a high school or college or partner organization needs help, you can always reach out to OSAC for support. We do have some recorded webinars. These 2 webinars were recorded in the fall. They're in English and in Spanish, and they focus on our OSAC resources and financial aid available for undocumented students, including DACA students. So I encourage you to check those out on our. We also have upcoming webinars throughout the next couple of months. On February 26th, our OSAC director, Juan, will be doing the same webinar, the ORSAA demo in Spanish. So we encourage you to register or share that with a colleague. Also, next Friday, we have the Oregon Promise webinar, Stay on Track, which is for current Oregon Promise recipients. And you can register for those online and also find our other OSAC webinars on a variety of topics on our website. So first of all, what is the Oregon Student Aid Application, ORSAA? The ORSAA is an alternative to those who have DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals status. Our office uses data and whether students are eligible for our OSAC scholarships and also for state-funded grants. And some colleges and universities in Oregon also use the ORSAA data to determine whether a student is eligible. And we want to clarify and just declare that our office and the state of Oregon continues to have an ongoing commitment to providing financial, and we will continue to support and serve DACA students even if and when the DACA program expires. The ORSAA will still be available to undocumented students in Oregon. So in terms of the security and how we use the ORSAA data, the ORSAA is used exclusively by our agency. We do not share any ORSAA data with other state or federal agencies. We only share ORSAA data with partner colleges and universities in Oregon if a student has listed them on their ORSAA, and we may share the data with private foundations that are providing scholarships if a student applies for those scholarships. And the HEC will do everything within our authority and jurisdiction to continue to protect the confidentiality of ORSAA information. We take that very seriously. So this slide shows you who should file the ORSAA. And I do want to point out that we also have a quiz on our website, which I'll show you, that will guide you through some questions to determine who should file the ORSAA. But on the left side here, you can see that students who should file the ORSAA include students who have no documented immigration status in the United States, also students who have DACA status, and students with temporary protected status, or TPS. On the right hand, you can see these are students who should instead file the FAFSA. Those would include U.S. citizens, legal permanent residents, also called green card holders, citizens or green card holders whose parents are undocumented, they should file the FAFSA. And there are certain other eligible non-citizen categories of students who can file the FAFSA, and you can find those on the FAFSA website, but those include certain refugees and asylees and certain other groups. There is kind of another group of students who are, in general, we would may not be eligible for financial aid from the state. So if a student is a valid visa holder, they would file the ORSAA, and they may not be eligible to file the FAFSA either. But you can find more information on our website about visa holders and international students as well. Point out that some college financial aid offices may encourage DACA students to also file the FAFSA. So because sometimes colleges use that FAFSA filing information for DACA students for financial aid on their campus. But here in Oregon, for DACA students, we certainly tell students they should file the ORSAA first and then talk to their college financial aid office to see if there's anything else they should do to apply for financial aid. So it's really important to consider filing the ORSAA. By filing the ORSAA, undocumented students and they can get help paying for college. When a student automatically will be considered for the Oregon Opportunity Grant, which is our state's largest need-based grant for college students. Additionally, if a student completes the ORSAA and completes a separate application, they can be considered for those. Do require additional applications, but completing the ORSAA is a good first step to access those opportunities as well. I want to point out opportunities, including the Oregon Opportunity Grant. There are additional requirements for students, which you can read about online, and we'll talk about as we go through the ORSAA as well. Here are a few key steps to filing the ORSAA, and we'll go into greater detail in our demo. The ORSAA quiz and see if you should be filing the ORSAA. Then create an ORSAA account. Complete all sections of the ORSAA and complete the e-signature process online. And for most students under the age of 24, you'll have a parent create an ORSAA account and also e-sign the ORSAA. The ORSAA. Just like the FAFSA, the ORSAA opens in October each year. It opens up for the following academic year. We always encourage students to file the ORSAA sooner rather than later. We recommend by early spring so that you have the best opportunity to be awarded financial aid. There's no hard deadline for filing the ORSAA, but certain opportunities, such as the Oregon Opportunity Grant, do run out of funds at a certain sooner rather than later. And certain programs, such as OSAC scholarships or Oregon Promise, will have their own program-specific deadline for filing the ORSAA or FAFSA. So for example, our OSAC scholarship deadline each year is March 1, and that's the deadline to complete the OSAC scholarship application, but also to file the ORSAA or FAFSA. So be sure to check any program-specific requirements. A senior right now in high school about to graduate, or you are a freshman, a junior, or an adult who's going to college, right now is a good time to file the ORSAA for financial aid next year. And be sure to complete that each year that you're in college. This is a checklist. It's of how to prepare to file the ORSAA, what kind of documents and information you'll need. And it's very similar to the FAFSA. It's the same kind of information and questions that are on the FAFSA. So you'll need to know date of birth, email for the student and the parent. You'll need to know income, tax return information, or other records of earnings, any bank statements, other income, and a driver's license if you have one. We are going to start the demo in a moment. A couple of things I want to say before we get started. The ORSAA is very similar to the FAFSA in that many of the questions on the FAFSA are exactly the same on the ORSAA. I don't have time to review each question on the ORSAA in detail today, But you can always refer to the FAFSA resources that are available online if you have detailed questions about a specific question on the ORSAA, because it's most likely already in the FAFSA resources, and English and Spanish with the FAFSA. I'm mostly going to focus on the overall getting through the ORSAA process and some of the areas of the ORSAA that are unique that you won't find on the FAFSA. I'm also going to go through the demo as a younger applicant under the age of 24 because that's kind of our most common student scenario, and also so that you can see the parent signature process as we go through. But keep in mind, if you're a student in a different situation, the ORSAA questions are quite similar. So to get started, we are at the OSAC homepage, which is oregonstudentaid.gov. And before we start the ORSAA, I do want to show you this page outlines the financial aid opportunities for undocumented students, especially this section on Oregon financial aid. I would encourage you to check it out. Homepage. The quickest way to get to the ORSAA is click on this button, File the FAFSA or ORSAA. And there is additional information on this page about the ORSAA and the FAFSA as well, which you can refer to. Then I will go to File the ORSAA quiz or pre-filter. The answers to these questions in this quiz are not saved or stored. It's simply a tool for you to use to determine whether you should file the ORSAA or the FAFSA. So I'll go through this pre-quiz, just a couple of. First of all, I'll go through as if I'm a DACA student. So it asks, do you have a social security number? So I may answer yes to that. No, I'm not a U.S. citizen. And I'll say, yes, I have been granted DACA status. Based on that, it's going to tell you to file the FAFSA or that you should not file either one. So you can play around with those if you're unsure what you should be filing. So now I'm going to click Complete the ORSAA. And this will take me to through our vendor, which runs the ORSAA. I would encourage you to bookmark this page so that you can get back to the ORSAA in your account easily, because otherwise you'll have to go through it again. Keep in mind, if you have into our OSAC student portal, that is a completely different website from the one that we're on now for the ORSAA. So it's going to be different login information in a different website. So once again, be sure to bookmark this page. And right now I'm going to jump over to our internal test version of the ORSAA so that I can do this demo. The same is in the live environment as well. So on this page, I would log in here. I can click Forget Your Password if I need that to be reset. And also note at the bottom, all of the OSAC contact information is listed. But let's say that I'm new. I'm going to click on Create My Account. And this will ask once again if I'm a U.S. citizen or not. I'm going to say no. And now it will let me create an account for the ORSAA. Going to change when they create their ORSAA account because it is a difficult process to get this updated. Also be used as your username for this account. So if you're a senior in high school, don't use your high school account. Use a different account that's going to be from high school. Create a somewhat complicated secure password. It's also going to ask you to choose a secret question, and make sure that you choose a question and answer that's not going to change. For me, my favorite food is chocolate. I'm not going to forget that. Because if you ever need to reset your password, you will be prompted to answer that secret question again. If you happen to forget the answer to that, you can reach out to OSAC and we will help you retrieve that. And for this demo, I'm going to say that I'm an 18-year-old student so that you can see what the process looks like. It asks here for a Social Security or DACA number. This is completely optional, so if I don't have one or I don't want to provide it, I will just leave that blank. And then I'll just enter in the security code here, and I will register the account. Once I click register, the system will send an email to the email that I provided, just confirming that I have created an ORSAA account as the student. Okay, so now I've created my account. I'm logged in as myself, the student, and this is the main dashboard for the ORSAA. Before we start the application, I want to explain a little bit about each of these blue icons that are going to guide you through the application. So I will jump. The first icon is to start, edit, or complete an application. This will trigger either a new application or a revision of a completed application. The second one, the eyeball, is to simply view an application without making any edits to it. The third icon with the person and the plus sign is if as e-sign the application, they will then invite their parent to sign. The third one is to download a PDF version of a completed application. And then the last one with the pencil is to sign the application for the student or the parent. And this will become more. So I'm going to get back into my account through this demo with the 2018-19 ORSAA. So that's for this coming fall of 2018. I'm going to go through the demo as if I'm a student who is about to graduate from high school in June, and I'll be starting college next fall. But also if you're currently in college, you would want to complete this 2018-19 ORSAA so that you can get financial aid for next year. And that's just the same as the way the FAFSA works as well. So I'm going to click on this Start Edit Application icon. And the first section, you can see your progress here on the side, and you'll see a check mark each time. The first section just asks for basic demographic information. Some of it is already filled out for the student. And I'll just go through it and hit save and continue for each section. This driver's license question is optional, and our office does not check or confirm with any other state agency or license. And I can leave the Social Security or DACA number blank as well if I choose to. I'm going to enter in my address here. And then my email address is already entered from my account. In this section, I can choose my marital status. There's a few different options here. This is the marital status for the student. So I'm going to say that I'm single. If I choose married or another option, it would ask me some additional questions. And then this is an important section. These questions get a little bit trickier, confusing. But first, it's asking for the student's household number of family members. In this scenario, I'm a single student, I'm not married, I don't have any children or dependents of my own, so I'm going to say 1 and only include myself. If let's say that I had a child, then I was supporting that child, I would select more than 1, and it would ask me to confirm if I have children or other dependents. But for this scenario, I'll just say 1. Later in the application, in the parent section, it will ask these questions again, and it will capture the full number of people in the parent's household. And then the question about the number of people in college, since this is only asking for the student's household, I'll just say 1 since that only includes myself. This question, so now we're actually in the next section, which is Oregon state information. And some of these questions will be different from the FAFSA because there's some additional requirements or information that the state of Oregon needs for financial aid purposes. The first question asks about DACA status. Keep in mind that whether or not a student has DACA status is not a determining factor for financial aid eligibility through the state. So I'm going to say no on that one. And then it will ask if I have earned a high school diploma. Since I'm currently a senior in high school, it's February right now. I haven't actually received my diploma, but by the time that the school year starts this fall, I will have earned my diploma. So I'm going to say yes, I earned a high school diploma, and I'll state the school. This section of the page asks for residency information. And this is just asking for the state where the student currently lives. I'm going to say Oregon. And you can answer yes or no depending on how long you've lived in the state. These next 4 questions are very specific to the ORSAA. And in order to be eligible for the Oregon Opportunity Grant, undocumented students would have to meet all 4 of these criteria in these questions. There are other financial aid opportunities such as Oregon Promise and some of our scholarships where the student does not need to meet all 4 of these requirements. And you can learn more about this on our website as well. The first question asks if I have attended a school in Oregon for 3 years immediately prior to graduating from high school. So I'll say yes. Next question asks if I've attended a school in the United States, the District of Columbia, or Puerto Rico for 5 years immediately prior to graduating from high school. So I'll say yes to that. The next one asks if I have received a high school diploma from a school in Oregon or if I've received the equivalent such as the GED. And since I will be graduating from high school this spring, I will say yes to that. The final question on this page can be a little bit confusing for students. This question is asking if it is my intention to become a citizen or lawful permanent resident of the United States if that option were available to me at this time. So if that is my intention, I will say yes. Our office does not collect any additional documentation from students related to that question for financial aid purposes. So it's simply asking whether a student intends to become a citizen or legal permanent resident if that option is available to them or if it were available to them in the future. So I'm on to the educational plans section. It's asking for my grade level in college. It's actually asking for next year, fall of 2018, what grade I'll be in. And I'm going to say I'm a freshman. I've never attended college before. And then it asks what degree or certificate I plan to pursue. Just make your best guess. If you're not quite sure, it's okay if plans change later on. But let's say that I'm going to complete a bachelor's degree. And this is asking if I have already completed a bachelor's degree. So it's basically asking, have you already graduated from college? And I'll say no. One thing that can be a little bit tricky for students, some students select that they are a graduate student and they get confused because they've graduated high school, but keep in mind that that refers to master's level students. So if a student is a high school graduate, then they can click freshman or the appropriate year in college. Now this section is about dependency determination. These questions are exactly the same as on the FAFSA, and these are just some additional special circumstances that we'll go through. If a student answers yes to one of these, then they will most likely be considered an independent student for the ORSAA. And once again, these are the same as on the FAFSA. So to ask if I'm on active military duty, if I'm a veteran of the armed forces, it asks if the student was in foster care or if parents are deceased. This question asks about if the student is an emancipated minor. And as you can see, there's a lot of detailed information along with each question that will help guide you through it. This asks if someone other than a parent or step-parent has legal guardianship as determined by a court. And then the last few questions ask the student if they're an unaccompanied youth, if they're homeless or at risk of homelessness. So I'm going to answer no to these and move on to the next section. Now we get into the financial information. This section we're in right now is all the questions pertain to the student's income and financial information. And since we're filing the 2018-19 ORSAA, it's asking for tax information from 2 years ago from 2016. So I'm going to say that I already filed my taxes. And these questions are all just the same as the FAFSA, so they might look familiar to you. So there's 4 total pages in this student tax information section. This question asks if the student is receiving federal benefits. It asks how much cash the student has on hand. And then there's some additional specific questions here. I'm going to say no to these. Since these don't apply, I can just leave the zeros there and move forward. And these are some additional questions about a student's untaxed income. If these are not applicable, just leave them as 0, and then you can move on. So now, as you can see, we are getting close to completing the application, but we are going to enter in the parent's financial information in this section. Since I'm the student, it's definitely a good idea to sit down with the parent and complete this section together so that all the information is accurate. So in this section, it's going to ask for the parent's marital status, and depending on how I answer this, it may ask for 1 or 2 parents for their information. So you'll see these questions are appearing again, but this time it's asking for the parent's household number of family members. And it tells you who should be included in the parent's household. So you'll want to include yourself, even if the student doesn't live with parents, include the student, include the parent or parents, include any other children who are being supported by your parents, and then any other people in the household, whether those are relatives or others, who the parent is providing more than half of their support. So this would not include just a roommate, but if it was somebody that your parents were supporting. So for this scenario, let's say that I have myself, 1 parent, and 2 siblings. I would say a total of 4 people in the household. And then if there are any other people in the household, not including the parents who are in college, then I would include them here in the number in college. So let's say I have a sibling who's in college this year as well. I'll say 2 right here. If you're not sure who is considered your parent on the ORSAA or the FAFSA has a lot of good resources about this issue. So there is a resource called Who is My Parent on the FAFSA, which you can find online, and all the same information there applies to the ORSAA. So I'm going to go to the next page. If the parent does not have a social security number, then you can enter all zeros here. And then you'll need to enter in the parent's first and last name and information about the parent. And make sure that all this information is entered correctly the first time around, because this will be important when the parent goes to create their account. It's going to ask for the parent's email address here, and it is going to want the parent to have a different email address than the student in order to create their account later on. This question here asks about the parent's state of residency. It does say legal residency here, but don't be scared off by that. It really is just asking for where the parent currently lives or resides. So even if the parent doesn't have a documented immigration status, if they're living in Oregon or a different state in the US, just indicate where the parent is currently living. So I'm going to select Oregon, and this asks for when the parent moved or how long the parent has lived in Oregon. These questions about the parent's financial information are going to look pretty similar to the student financial section. And keep in mind, once again, it's asking for 2016 income tax information from 2 years ago. So I'm going to say that I already filed my taxes as head of household for my parent. So this is why it's really important to sit down with your parent with any tax information and earnings in front of you so that you can complete this all accurately. If you do make an error, you can always go back and revise your ORSAA, but it's easier just to get that correct the first time around. This section asks again if anyone in the parent's household is eligible for certain benefits. And then it asks for cash, savings, any other investments that the parents have. This is some additional financial information, just additional questions for the parent. If they don't apply, you can just leave them at 0, but make sure you read through those carefully. And this last page asks for the parent's untaxed income information as well. So I'm going to leave those as 0. And now you can see we're on the final section before we sign the application. This is just like the FAFSA. It's going to ask the student which colleges they're interested in or planning to attend next year. And it'll ask the student their current plan for housing. So a student can select up to 10 schools. And if they are considering a school or they're not sure, I would encourage the student to just add those onto the ORSAA. Otherwise, the student can always go back in and update this section. So I'm going to select 2 schools and then I'll move on. Okay, now we're on the final section for the student, which is signing my forms. We're going to click View My Form, and this will show a just a completed version of all the information I've submitted. I'm acknowledging that everything's true and correct. This section just goes through some e-signature consent and disclosures. This one is just checking that I have the correct setup on my computer to sign the ORSAA. And now I'm going to re-enter my name, my password, in order to sign the ORSAA. So make sure you enter everything exactly like when you created your account so that it will let you sign. And this asks for just the current city and state where I'm signing the ORSAA. And here we go. Okay, so the student has signed the ORSAA. Now we're back on the main page, and you can see the status of the application, and you'll see that it says incomplete, parent signature is pending. If I was, say, an older student, if I was 25 and I didn't need a parent to sign, then it would say completed here. But I'm going to click on this icon with the person and the plus sign, and I'm going to start the parent signature process now. So if I had two parents on the ORSAA, then it would give me the option and I would just select one of them to sign. I'm going to double check the email is correct, and this is just confirming that my parent will be able to view and sign the ORSAA. So I'm going to click this button and it will generate an email to my parent. So give me a moment here. It's going to send me an email to the parent email address. So I'm still in the student account. So right now I'm going to log out and I'm going to go look for that parent email to create the parent's account. Okay, so this email looks a little bit different. Just ignore this red box at the top, but this is what the parent email will look like. And it says that this student has selected me to sign their application, so I will click on this parent portal link. And keep in mind that if you're on the same computer as the student will need to be logged out of their account. Also, this link expires in 72 hours, so if the parent doesn't use it in time, the student will just go back into their ORSAA account and resend that invitation link. So I click on that link and it's opening up a page that's unique to me and asking me to create a parent ORSAA account. It already has the email in there, so I will just create my own password. So this is really what the parent would be doing on their side after the student is done. So both the parent and the student will have their own ORSAA account, but the parent's account will be linked to the student. Also have a secret question. And these questions are just to confirm that the parent, is connected to that student. So it's asking to confirm the information that the student entered. So first it asks for the parent's date of birth. And I'm going to enter in zeros if I don't have a social security number. And then it asks for the student's date of birth. And I will click register. Okay, so now I'm in the parent's account. And you'll see here that it has the student's ORSAA, it's incomplete, and I'm going to click on this little pencil icon because it says that this ORSAA is ready for me to sign. So as the parent, this is going to look very similar to the student side, except that I'm simply going to go through each page. I'm going to review the information, make sure it's correct. And if there's anything that's incorrect, then I can edit it and make those corrections. So if everything looks good, then I'll just keep hitting save and continue. It's especially important for the parent to, of course, check the parent's income tax information, make sure that's all accurate. So let's say that there was something that I needed to correct. Let's say there was something incorrect on the tax information. I would just change it here and then hit save and continue for the parent. Okay, so I've gone through the whole application. Now it's time for the parent to sign. So I'm previewing the application, and you'll see the same kind of consent and disclosures as the student had. All right, and I'm just going to enter in my name again. Okay, so as you can see now, I finished the parent signature process, and it says that the ORSAA is completed, and it says the date that it was completed. One thing I want to point out is that once the ORSAA is completed, it does not send an email to the student or parent to confirm that it's been completed, so don't be alarmed. You just need to go back into the parent or the student account, and you can see that for the status that it will say completed and the date that it was completed. So I'm going to jump back to our slides. So if the student were to go back into their application right now, this is what it would look like. It would show the status as completed, and the options they would have now are to download a PDF of their completed application, or they can view it with the eyeball button. They can view the application without making edits. Or the other option, if they click this middle icon, then this will trigger a revision of the application. So if I needed to fix